This is a true story from my life. When I was about 5 years old, a fortune teller insisted on reading my future. After staring at me for a long time, he said something that amazed everyone. This boy will one day be able to see straight into people's hearts. He'll become both famous and wealthy. The news spread quickly through our small village. Everyone believed I was destined to become a genius. My parents poured everything they had into my education. They dreamed that I would grow up to do something extraordinary. Instead, I disappointed them. My English and math scores rarely reached 60. No matter how many health tonics my parents bought, nothing seemed to improve my intelligence. By the time I graduated from high school, that was the end of my education. My mother was furious. She stomped around the house yelling, "That fortune teller was a complete fraud." Like most kids from our mountain village, I left home to work in the city. I joined my sister and brother-in-law at their small fried noodle restaurant. My job? Cooking noodles over a blazing hot wok. Honestly, the less I say about those days, the better. Let's just get back to frying noodles. Even in September, the southern nights felt like standing inside an oven. Xiao Ming! You're up! I grabbed the heavy iron wok. Oil, noodles, vegetables, soy sauce, garlic, salt, pepper, chili powder. With one powerful swing, the noodles flew high into the air, then landed perfectly back inside the pan. Once, twice, three times. It looked more like a circus performance than cooking, but my arms were screaming with pain. Suddenly, they gave out. Clang! The wok slipped from my hands and crashed onto the floor. Noodles, eggs, vegetables, everything scattered across the restaurant. Every customer turned to stare. Without saying a word, my brother-in-law picked up another wok and continued cooking as if nothing had happened. Then he looked at me and spat out a single word. Worthless. I sat there exhausted. If I kept living like this, the only thing I'd gain would be stronger arms. Nothing else. He glared at me. If you can't work, go back and rest. Stop embarrassing yourself. I returned to the dormitory, angry and frustrated. Ever since I arrived, I had been trying to improve the business. During my first month, I suggested renting the abandoned recycling shop next door. We could expand, hire more chefs, double our sales. My brother-in-law laughed. You just want an easier job. What if we lose money? The second month, I suggested opening a buffet during lunchtime. If you don't want to work, go home. After hearing that enough times, I stopped making suggestions. I became nothing more than a machine. Every day, the same movements, lift, flip, catch, repeat, over and over again, until my exhausted arms could no longer keep up. Dropping noodles became almost routine. Tonight wasn't the first time, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. By 1 o'clock in the morning, the restaurant finally became quiet. I sat alone on my bed. My arms throbbed with pain. I thought someone would at least come and ask if I was okay. No one came. Not my sister, not my brother-in-law, no one. Anger boiled inside me. I grabbed my pillow and threw it across the room. It hit an old book I had rescued from a junkyard a few days earlier. The title caught my eye. Business Golden Secrets. Since I couldn't sleep anyway, I opened it. One story immediately grabbed my attention. A man collected scrap copper and silver for years, but barely earned a living. Then one day, he melted the metal down and made Buddha statues instead. His income multiplied overnight. I stared at those pages. Then suddenly, I slapped my thigh. I've got it. That single idea would change my life forever. I ordered a tiny Buddha mold online. It was only about the size of a coin. When it arrived, I waited until 1 o'clock in the morning. Then I quietly slipped outside carrying a hammer and a ladder. I walked to a large tree near the abandoned recycling shop. That night, I secretly embedded the mold deep inside the tree. For months, I returned late at night. Using a syringe, I injected nutrients around the hidden mold so the tree would continue growing. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Finally, the following spring, the mold loosened and fell away. The tree had grown around it. What remained looked exactly like a naturally formed Buddha. March arrived. The recycling shop next door finally closed. It was time to put my plan into motion. One afternoon, I invited my sister to play badminton. Long before she arrived, I secretly hid a shuttlecock high in that very tree. When it got stuck, I climbed a ladder to retrieve it. Halfway up, I deliberately pretended to panic and slid back down. My sister rushed over. What happened? I pointed toward the tree. There's a Buddha growing in it. She climbed up herself. Seconds later, she came rushing back down, eyes wide with shock. How was that possible? I smiled. Our lucky days have finally arrived. She blinked. What do you mean? I pointed toward the abandoned recycling shop. Why has that business always failed? She shrugged. I don't know. Because they've been piling junk beneath the sacred Buddha? That's disrespect. No wonder they went out of business. She slowly nodded. That actually makes sense. I continued. If we rent the shop, expand our restaurant, and make fresh offerings to the Buddha every day, it will bless our business. She stood there speechless. Then I added one final push. If someone else rents that shop first, we'll regret it forever. A few moments later, she called my brother-in-law. I think this Buddha is giving us a sign.